Hello, hello. Okay, we're gonna give like 2 or 3 minutes for you guys to connect with me. Come on, guys. Get inside. Hello. Hi. Euphoria is Karen, right? Karen? Is that you? Can you hear me? Is the microphone working properly? Is the microphone working properly, guys? Hi, Karen. How's it been? We're gonna wait like 2 or 3 minutes so that people can connect, okay? Hello, Patricio. Hello, Edgar. Oh, how nice to see you guys. How nice. I have an activity from you, Edgar, I think, in my... No. I was mistaken. It's from other classroom. I think from your class, I have only received things from Alan, from Santiago, and from Ricardo, and the Mara Trillo. Those are the only ones that I have received stuff from. Okay, so I know people that are not logged in right now. You are gonna be able to look at the live stream when it's kept in my YouTube account. So let's proceed. All right. First of all, I have an announcement. You guys have been turning in your activities. Remember that when we went out to Semana Santa and Semana de Pascua, we were on to 3 activities. And so through Jocelyn, I have given you, I have let you know which of the 3 activities you already have. Okay, basically most of you, I'm very proud of this class because most of you have everything accounted for. Look, you guys are awesome. All right, so you still have today to turn in stuff. Okay, now do not please send it to me through platform anymore because the activities, when I log in and when I program them and send it to you so that it shows in your platform, I have to put a beginning date and an ending date. So sometimes, I don't know what it is based upon, but sometimes when it's past the due date, it doesn't show for me. I mean, it shows for you, but it doesn't show for me. So whatever it is, whatever that you are turning in late, please go to my email account and turn it in, okay? Turn it in through the email account, not through platform anymore, all right? So you already have these. Jocelyn been a peach and she has given you this list. I made a picture and I sent it to you, all right? So let's begin. You have in your group, for some reason, Jocelyn added me to the group and I have just sent you a PDF with the study guide, okay, with the study guide. And today, that's the plan. We're going to go over it. Tomorrow at the same time at 11, you're going to have a Moodle from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. to 12 noon, okay, 12 noon, to answer a questionnaire. That questionnaire is going to account for the resting part of your activities. I know this is very minimal. I know I cannot account your learning activity from these 3 only turn-ins, but I mean, that's what we were told, that's what we're doing. And so completing these 3 activities plus your questionnaire that is going to be in platform tomorrow from 11 to 12, it's not going to be repeated again. Okay, if you have any excuse that is valid, and I mean really valid, you write to me through an email, or I am already in the WhatsApp group. So I am the one that posted the study guide, so you can write to me direct, okay? It was not my intention to give you all my phone number, but it's okay. I trust you guys. And so let's begin. All right. Let's go to your, I recommend you to grab your notebook, the one where you have been making your notes from this partial, and also to have in your phone or in the computer, in the tablet, the study guide open so that we can go back and forth. And this is your time so that I am going to go over the concepts, not too much, because all the YouTube lives that we have been doing the second partial are up, and you can go back to them, okay? And they haven't been many. I have taken out a lot of content because I realized when I was doing the study guide that even though we had like half of the classes that we were supposed to have, if we were in real life, mm, it's still a lot. It's still a lot of content. So I've taken away some of the parts, some of the things that are not coming in the exam. Now, the things that are in the study guide are coming in the exam for real. I'm not even going to select anything. I'm not going to select from the 20 things that we have, 10. I mean, everything is coming in the exam. So you have to know specifically everything. All right. So let's go to our study guide. All right. And so number one is the law. I'm sorry. The law of demand and supply. With the law of demand and supply, we're looking at this. We're looking at this. It's opening, guys. Sorry. There. Okay, so we're looking at your study guide. Let me see. Okay, this is what we're looking at, and we're gonna go over this during the whole hour. Okay, so the first thing is the law of supply and demand. It says last, but that was my corrector. Law of supply and demand. Now, that's the principle that is the basic principle that regulates any competitive market, okay? Any competitive market. A market is not only a place, but it's a space. It can be a virtual market like Amazon Prime. It can be a physical market like El Tianguis de Santa Tere, okay? And it's whatever space in which you do a transaction. You give some money and you receive something, money or anything else, okay? And you receive a good. We're gonna call goods to the services, tangible or intangible goods, things, visible or invisible, that you make a transaction for, okay? And so it is graphed in this way. The whole second partial, we've been seeing how the law of demand works and how the law of supply works. Okay, so in the x-axis, you're going to find the quantity, and in the y-axis, you're going to find the price. So basically, we are going to say that, for example, in the demand, which is going to describe how consumers behave, we're going to say that if I sell a Coke at 10 pesos, people are going to want probably like 20 Cokes per day if I'm a little store. If you fix the price at 20 pesos per the same bottle of Coke, then maybe people are only gonna want 5 Coca-Colas, right? So the law of demand states that the more the price, the less the demand. And so those things, you graph them into a curve and you unite them, you unify them with a line, and that gives you the curve of demand, okay? And then on the opposite side is the law of supply. The supply curve describes how providers, how sellers behave. And that's the opposite of demand. In demand, the more the price, the less demand. In the supply curve, the more price, the more supply. It's like equal. Why? Because if I am selling cars and you're telling me that the cars are going to be very expensive, I am going to want to sell more because it's very expensive. More expensive means that I have more earnings. So I'm incentivized, I'm encouraged by the market to sell more things because if they represent an earning for me, okay? Disculpen que se me atronca con el inglés, no he hablado inglés como en 2 semanas. Okay, and so then in number 2, I say you must be able to differentiate between demand and quantity demanded. Remember, the demand is a whole curve. The quantity demanded is a point in the curve. Like at that price, how much quantity, how many of Coca-Colas, how many of cars, how many of computers, how many of cell phones am I going to demand? Okay, so the quantity demanded is only a point in the curve. When I talk about demand, I'm talking about the whole curve. All right, same applies to supply. If I talk about supply, is a whole curve, all the curve. And when I'm talking about quantity supply, I'm talking about a point, a specific point in the curve in which I set so that I find out how much they're gonna sell, or I'm going to be able to sell for, so forth and so on, a quantity supply. Okay? Yes, any questions until now? Nothing, because you're very smart. Okay, then that's number 3 and number 4. Okay, the law of supply, the law of demand. That's what I just explained. You have to know the graph, which one is which. Okay, remember that demand is always going from up to down, and supply is going from down to up. In the exam tomorrow, I'm going to give you this graph with blanks, and you're going to have to put in four things, 4 options. Price, quantity, price goes in the y-axis, quantity goes in the x-axis, okay? And which one is the curve of supply and which one is the curve of demand, okay? So those are 4 sure questions that you're going to find in your exam tomorrow at 11. You're only going to have from 11 to noon. Next, number 5 is, what does ceteris paribus mean? With ceteris paribus is a Latin term that means all factors, all variables remain the same. Okay, all variables remain the same. Many of you have been already asking me how we're going to manage the third partial. For example, in my class, in economics class, I would say ceteris paribus, okay, ceteris paribus, we're going to keep on having our classes in YouTube live stream. We're going to give you 3 activities in platform Moodle, and we're going to have a questionnaire as an exam. So ceteris paribus, all things remaining the same, we're going to conduct ourselves so on and so forth. Okay, why is ceteris paribus, that principle or that premise, so important? Because we're going to work in economics with a lot of graphs that are based upon mathematical models and statistical models. So when you put real life into a graph, you need to say ceteris paribus, because not everybody is going to behave in the same way, okay? A very good example is the pandemic. Like, not everybody is behaving the same and confronting the pandemic in the same specific way. Even though we have the same recommendations, we're hearing the same news, we're having the same conditions around us, the truth is that many people are leaving the country. Many people are just like going to another place for vacations. Some people are paranoid and are restraining their houses. Some people are just careless. Some people care a lot. Some people care too much. I mean, we are people, and since economics is the science of decisions, not everybody makes decisions in the same specific way. So that's why when we put information of real life in a graph, we need to say ceteris paribus, because we're not completely sure that all factors remain the same. So that's why we have to specifically state it. We state it out loud. We have to be explicit. Ceteris paribus, all things remaining the same, the model of supply and demand, is from 11 to 12, Edgar. Oh yeah, the guy says wrong because that's the Spanish questionnaire. Okay, so it's for you guys, it's going to be from 11 to noon. 11 to noon. Let me put it in the group. Let me put it in the group. Diane's exam tomorrow, April 23rd, From 11 to 12 noon, right? Yes, yes. Thank you, Edgar, for the acceleration. Okay, number six. Number 6 and 7 are pretty simple. This is another class. I'm going to give you the like a list of the links where I explain all of this so that you can go over the things that we have already seen. But I'm pretty sure you already have it in your notebook. So 6 and 7 factors that modify demand are. I remember that we wrote the preferences, a change in preferences in the public, for example, for fashion items, flare jeans are not in the style anymore. Then they go back again and they go out of the style. That's one of the shifters for demand. And then factors that modify supply, that could be the price of substitutes or the price of complementary goods, which lead us to the next ones, which are complementary goods. Complementary goods are things, articles that go or belong with another one. For example, ketchup belongs to burgers or to fries. So whenever I sell more fries, that means automatically that I'm going to sell or consume more ketchup, okay? More ketchup or more mustard or more mayonnaise. That's like something that goes together, all right? Like pizza, Parmesan cheese, like I don't know, like an iron, okay, an iron and this thing that I don't know how it's called in English, the el burro de planchar, um, shampoo and conditioner, okay, those are complementary goods. So that means that if one goes up, the other one goes up for supply and for demand. If I demand more milk, then immediately my demand for cereal is going to go up. All right. If I demand less French fries, automatically my demand for ketchup and mustard and mayonnaise is going to go down. Okay. There are things that go together. It may be accessories or it may be products that are related to each other. Like whenever to go to Victoria's Secret and you buy the lotion and the spray, kind of like that. You buy one and you automatically want to buy the other. The same thing for supply, okay, the same thing. And then the other one is the substitute good. A substitute good is, as its name states, something that replaces that good. For example, almond milk to regular milk. Splenda or stevia to regular sugar. Piloncillo to regular sugar. That is opposite. The relationship between demand and supply, and that substitute is going to be the opposite. For example, whenever my demand for almond milk goes up, automatically my demand for regular milk goes down. Whenever my demand for sugar goes down, that means that my substitute, Splenda or Stevia or Piloncillo, are going up. So it's an inverse relationship. All right. Complementary goods are the same relationship. One goes up, the other one goes up. One goes down, the other one goes down. And with substitute goods is the opposite. When one goes up, the other one goes down, and vice versa. All right. Then number 9, number 10, number 12. Let's skip to number 12 is types of market structures. Now, you're going to find that in many authors and many books, you're going to find more structures because they divide those basic 4 into more. All right, but we're only going to see these 4, and we already dedicated one class to that. So that's the perfect competition one. Okay, the perfect competition is the one that is ideal. Maybe something like we said, an example was oranges, or yeah, oranges, because if you sell oranges and the other one person sells oranges, the difference between the oranges is not likely to be very great, right? Probably all sellers of oranges have the same orange or have the same provider. All right. So a perfect competition market structure is the one where the access and the retirement from the withdrawal from the market is free, but the articles that are sold or that compete with each other are basically the same, the prices are basically the same. And I remember that when we were explaining this, we were talking about Obregon, the Obregon Avenue. Like you find many related items and stores all together. For example, if you go to Deportes Guerra or Deportes whatever, Deportes Martinez, Deportes Rodriguez, Deportes whatever, okay, there are like 6 stores that sell basically the same thing. They sell goggles, balls, they sell equipment for or apparel for sports. And so the prices are basically the same because due to the competition, they cannot afford to lose a consumer because they have a differentiation in prices. So they basically try to stick to a price, the price that the market regulates. That's why it's called perfect competition. Then the monopoly, okay, is when only one enterprise controls everything. In Mexico, the industry of electricity is controlled by Comisión Federal de Electricidad, CFE. Okay, so there is no other company that provides electricity, or at least not as powerful. So whatever La Comisión Federal de Electricidad decides to do, like even if they start, due to the pandemic, they start rationing the electricity and making colonies go out of electricity at some points during the day, that is going to remain that, because nobody can compete with them. They have nothing to lose because they have a captive consumer, a very broad consumer captivity. Okay, they have us captive there because we don't have another option. All right, and then that leads us to the oligopoly. C is oligopoly, and that means that you have very few enterprises controlling that area. For example, the cell phone services, the line services. We have Movistar, we have AT&T, we have Telcel, we have Alcatel, and 2 more, and that's it. That's oligo. It's the fix, the root for a few, and a few control the industry of cell phones or of cell phone calling service. All right. So that's when a few people control that. And that gives them an edge too, because they can make alliances or they can make pacts. They can talk to each other and say that, well, they fix a price that is very convenient for them. And and that's how they regulate the market in their own convenience and for their own interest. And finally, the competitive market, that's the one that we all want. That's the one that we all want to be in which the access and the withdrawal from the market is totally free, and little industries and big enterprises can compete with each other, and there's enough incentive for competition so that the providers of any specific good or service are all the time improving themselves so that they can offer more for the same money, for the same amount of money. So that benefits the consumers because we are having many options and many, yeah, like enough diversity so that we can choose. If I put a lot of emphasis in the support and support service for electronics, then I'm going to go with this company. If I put a lot of emphasis or my highlight is in technical stuff, I'm going to go with this brand. And so consumers have a very broad variety of choices so that you can pick from all these array of options and get more for your money, or get exactly what you want for your money. All right. So that's number 12. Number 13. Now, that was a very difficult class. I have reduced the content. I mean, you can watch the video again, but I have reduced the context to only 3 definitions. Okay, you have to know that obviously in economics we have something that is called a cost. A cost is something that you forego, that you give up whenever you are making a transaction. Okay, you so want to go to Disneyland when the pandemic is over and the quarantine is over, that you are going to be willing to pay $16,000 for a tour and a cruise, and an Orlando cruise in the Bahamas and Miami and all of that. And that includes Disneyland park entrance and 3 days in the best hotel in Disneyland and whatever. Okay, so whenever you're willing to pay something, you're willing to forego, you're willing to give up something that is your cost. Okay, that is your cost. Whatever activity, economic activity has a cost. Even if you're not making transaction for money, your time is a cost, your health, your abilities, your talents that you're putting into doing something and getting something accomplished, that is a cost. Okay, you could have been using that time for another thing. You could have been sleeping, you could have been doing whatever. Okay, so the fact that many of you are logged in right now, that means that you are paying a cost. You're paying the fact, or your ability, your incredible ability to do absolutely nothing for many hours in a row. You are foregoing that. You're making that. You're giving that up so that you can be here with me right now. And I love you guys. And so I have reduced that class because we did a table and we made a model and we graphed each of these variables into each of the market structures. But I'm going to reduce that, okay, for you to know for tomorrow. You're only gonna have to learn what is a variable cost and a fixed cost. A variable cost is something that varies, as its name states, when you change the consumption or the production of something. Let's say I make empanadas, and so if I make 100 empanadas, the flour that I'm gonna use at making 100 empanadas is very different than the amount of flour that I'm gonna use, or the eggs or the butter that I'm gonna use when I do 1,000 empanadas. So that's a variable cost. The cost of flour, of inputs, butter, eggs, milk, baking soda. Okay, those things are variable costs because depending on how many units I produce, they change, they vary. That's why it's called variable cost. On the opposite side, a fixed cost is something that it remains the same independently on how many units I produce. An example is the rent. I have to pay if I sell 10 empanadas or if I sell 1,000 empanadas. That's basically that. And finally, the marginal cost. The marginal cost, remember that in the first partial we saw many marginal things. Marginal, when we use marginal in any sentence, in any phrase, it means the next unit that is going to be produced, the next unit that is going to be bought. We talked about the law of diminishing utility, and I gave you the example of the picafresas. If I love picafresas and I have this amount of money that is humongous, and I buy 1,000 picafresas, when I eat the first picafresa, my satisfaction is going to be from 1 to 10, probably 11. Okay, but when I eat my 68th picafresa, maybe I'm even going to throw up because I just my satisfaction on that 68th picafresa was far less, far below the first picafresa that I ate. Okay, so that's called the law of diminishing utility, or law of diminishing marginal returns. Okay, so when I talk about the marginal cost, we're going to refer to any industry. They have to find the point, the equilibrium point in which everything flows as a business, but then also they have to find the marginal cost. Maybe for some enterprises, for some industries, making 1,000 more, making 100 more TVs, making 1,000 more, producing 1,000 more strawberries, probably the cost of those 1,000 more strawberries exceeds the utility or the return that I get, my earnings. All right. And for that, when we saw that, I put the example, I said the example of the brownies. Let's say in my oven, I can only put in 20 brownies. And so people are asking me for more brownies. And so I'm thinking about making 5 more brownies. But my oven can only hold 20 brownies, a tray with only 20 brownies. So for making those 5 extra brownies, I'm going to have to use another tray, another set, another 25 minutes, another amount of gas from my oven, okay? And so probably those 5 are not going to be so convenient for my economy, okay? Because those 5 are gonna cost me exactly or far more than the 21st ones. And so if I do 20 more brownies, because like in a logical way, I say, well, let's do another tray. And that way my brownies are as cheap as my first 20 brownies. If I put two trays of brownies. However, I may not have as much demand for 40 brownies than for 20. So even though I could have sold 25 brownies per day, the reality is that I'm only going to stop at 20, because if I make the 40 ones, then my return is less, and I'm going to end up paying more or earning less than if I just settle at selling 20 brown making 20 brownies, selling 20 brownies, and well, at 10 a.m. in the morning when I'm back in school, I am totally sold out. And even though I have the possibility for selling 20 more, my cost exceeds my earnings, and that's why I stopped there. So the only thing that you have to know from the marginal cost is that it exists. You have to calculate, as an industry, we have to calculate the cost of the marginal for the next unit that is being produced or the next unit that I may sell, so that I can decide, I can take a decision as an executive to see if I keep on producing or I stop right there. Even though it seems that the market shows more demand for that specific product, maybe it's not so convenient for me to keep on producing, because my inputs on whatever thing that I'm doing may exceed what I'm getting in return. That's why it's called the law of diminishing marginal returns. Okay. And finally, guys, the elasticity of demand and the elasticity of supply. That's the very, very last thing that we saw. And that's pretty simple. Okay, I remember that I made you some things. As we said, the law of demand and the law of supply are curves. And here it is. This is elasticity of demand, remember? And I'm gonna make like a list of links so that you where I explain this, okay, is how much impact does a change in price have in the demand. All right. So whenever we have like a horizontal, the more horizontal we have the line of demand, we're gonna call it elastic. And whenever it's more vertical, we're gonna call it inelastic. So here in an inelastic, we're talking about a very insensitive demand curve. And when we're talking about very elastic, we're talking about a very sensitive. Very sensitive to what? To change in price. Okay, there are things, and you may say everything is sensible. Well, not everything is so sensible. If you think about gasoline or milk, for example, I have an amount of milk that I drink per day or per week. Even if they give me away milk, like they give it to me for 10 pesos a gallon, it doesn't mean that my consumption of milk is going to increase that much. I mean, it's going to increase, but it's not going to double. I'm not going to drink double milk because it's cheaper. Okay, the same thing with gasoline. Maybe it's somewhat elastic because I may not think so much about going to a trip to Chapala for this weekend or driving to Michoacan to see my relatives more often. However, it's not like from Monday to Friday, my routine is going to change just because gasoline is cheaper. Okay. So it's somewhat elastic, but it's not so elastic, or it's not total elastic. And that's why we have the difference in elasticity. We have perfectly inelastic, relatively inelastic, unit elastic, relatively elastic, and perfectly elastic. Okay. And how do we know that? Which one is which? When the coefficient, which is the slope, whenever you saw algebra and you saw functions, you calculate the slope. And here in the coefficient is the percentage, not only the change directly, but the percentage of change in quantity over the percentage of change in price. All right. And if it equals to 0, which gives you a demand that is totally vertical, then we are talking about a perfectly inelastic demand curve. And if it's less than 1, is relatively inelastic. If it's equal to 1, is a unit elastic. If it's more than one, we're talking about is more horizontal, so it's relatively elastic. And if it's infinite, then we're talking about a total horizontal elastic curve. Okay, same thing applies for supply. The same thing, okay? Inelasticity, insensible, elasticity, totally sensible, and the same thing applies to the coefficients, all right? So the questionnaire in Moodle is going to be from 11 to 12, okay? 11 to 12, and it's gonna be tomorrow, and I wish you the best luck of everything. And let's answer questions, okay? Go over the study guide and ask now or be quiet forever. Um, the cost of advertisement you use is variable. Exactly. That's why some enterprises, some industries, they choose to invest a lot in advertisement in social media or in TV or even in radio. There are some brands that have it. It's very convenient for them to still invest in radio because their target market is still listening to the radio. Not everybody has moved. It's especially in Latin American countries. Okay, we live a kind of life that is not common in Mexico. We go to a private school. We are probably going to go to a private university. We have this type of education. We have many things that probably 85% of the people in Mexico do not have. Okay, so we're the privileged ones. And that's why when you are selling things that are not for privileged people, you may you may consider going to the traditional media. There's a lot of people that still watch TV because they do not have Netflix. They watch mainstream TV, okay, or they listen to the radio. Ceteris paribus, Nelly, of course, ceteris paribus is an expression in Latin that just means all factors remain the same. All factors remain the same. Whenever you're going to do an assumption, okay, you say ceteris paribus, and that means that all things remain in the same, whatever you're stating, okay? If you ask your coordinator right now, like if you call Amandita and say, hey Amanda, how are we gonna manage the payment for a school? And she would answer ceteris paribus. I mean, obviously she's not gonna say those exact words, but I mean ceteris paribus, the cost of the monthly fee remains the same, you know, because nothing has changed. They haven't talked about it yet. So maybe on Friday that we have a reunion, maybe they're going to announce something different. But ceteris paribus, remaining all things the same until now, like with the information we possess up to this point, things are remaining the same. We're going to grade the third partial in the same way that we've been graded and plan our second partial. Everything is going to be online. And with me, we're going to have classes on YouTube live stream, and we're going to have the 3 activities, and we're going to have this contact for doubts and leaving the more complex topics for whenever we go back to school, because I have a lot of faith that we're going to go back to school, and I have a lot of faith that we're going to see each other before you graduate, and that you're going to have a perfect graduation, and that you're going to be very, very, very happy. Okay, I have a lot of faith in that. Karen dice, the factors that modify demand and supply are the ones that we saw as shifters. Yes, those are the shifters of demand and the shifters of supply. David, where are you going to leave the links of the videos? I'm going to put it in the group. Jocelyn got me in the group, and I'm going to put it there. Okay? But basically, they're in my channel. A lot of students have said that they have found it there. But just to make sure, I'm going to put every link with the topic. Okay? Me voy a dar la tarea de poner así una listita de los topics que hemos visto, que les estoy pidiendo, porque como les voy a repetir ahí, lo de los costos se me hizo como que no necesitaría dejarte un ejercicio, and Moodle doesn't allow me to test you in that kind of knowledge. So we're only going to see definitions and theory. All right? All right. So guys, this is everything for today. I hope there are no more doubts. Paola Moran, can you show again the paper for elasticity? Of course. Elasticity of the mass. Ay, ¿dónde está? Perfectly inelastic. Elasticity of demand. Here, it's this one. It's this one and this one. I can send you a picture. The exam is going to be multiple choice. De este le voy a tomar foto y se los pongo en el grupito. Okay? So, okay. So, estudien mucho y nos vemos si quieren el viernes a la misma hora para darles sus resultados ya de sus calificaciones. Cualquier dato ya más particular, me avisa por favor. Y traten de que todos estén enterados de que mañana es el examen from 11 to 12 because I'm going to close it. That's the only time they're going to have. Okay? So, lo que sea que necesiten, ya me lo hacen saber a través de Josie. Okay? So, bye guys. See you later. Goodbye.